You're listening to Intelligent Medicine, a resource to help you take control of your health. We offer a balanced, objective analysis of all your health, wellness, and aging options, both conventional and alternative. Now you can take your engagement to the next level by joining FullScript. FullScript is my online dispensing platform that only offers curated, professional-grade supplement brands that I know and trust. Never counterfeit or expired, always stored and shipped correctly. Just go to drhoffmanstore.com for more information and to start your free FullScript account. Buying through FullScript offers fast, free shipping, optional refill reminders, a mobile-friendly site. It's safe, secure, and HIPAA compliant and offers world-class support. Just go to drhoffmanstore.com. You'll get access to the supplements and features you need to help you achieve your wellness goals, including my custom targeted protocols that combine the products I recommend to address specific needs, heart health, immune support, and much more. It's all at drhoffmanstore.com. drhoffmanstore.com.
Welcome to Layla Weighs In. I'm your host, Leyla Muedin. I'm a registered dietitian nutritionist. If you'd like to make an appointment, call the number 212-779-1744. I'm available in person, I'm available via telephone, and I'm available virtually via telehealth. If you'd like to email me questions or a topic of interest, that email that you'd like to hear me discuss on this podcast, where I weigh in, that email is questions@drhoffman.net. That's questions@drhoffman.net. I've got an email here from Rita. Rita says, upon reading the article from Leyla Muedin on what and when you eat carbs to keep blood sugar in check, my hemoglobin A1C was 5.6 and now 5.8. Getting worried. How can I stop the climb to diabetes without getting a glucose monitor? In the olden days, you strictly avoided anything with sugar if you were diagnosed with diabetes and put on insulin. Now it appears, if you know the tricks, i.e. when and what you ate before, you can cheat a little. I would like to know how to stop the onset of diabetes while I still can. Rita, thank you for your question. Now, here's the thing. There are glucose hacks. There are ways of lowering the glycemic load of your meal. For example, not just eating a baked potato, but having a steak with it, having a salad with it as well, that kind of a thing, to lower the glycemic load of that baked potato. But listen, by no means, if you already have high blood sugar, you were already at a 5.6 and now you're up to 5.8, you should stop eating anything with sugar. And it's not just back in the olden days you strictly avoided anything with sugar. It's for all time. You should avoid anything with sugar in it, overt sugar. And that includes that baked potato, which is a polysaccharide which breaks down and easily converts to sugar in the body. If you've got already a higher A1C, and 5.8 puts you clearly in the prediabetes zone, you want to eliminate that baked potato. You can't do the hack thing about eating your carbs this way or that way to temper the absorption of them if you already have a high A1C. So, the first order of business is to lower your carbs completely. So you're not going to eat any starchy vegetables at all. You're going to eat mainly the green ones. You're not going to have corn, which is a grain. You're not going to have carrots. You're not going to have potatoes. You're not going to have, butternut squash and things that are sweet. You're going to concentrate your meals on having good quality and fatty animal protein, because fats also help blunt the blood sugar and insulin response as well, right? And you could have some of the low glycemic vegetables. That would be the way to do it. You probably shouldn't even have a piece of fruit, or not have a piece of fruit at all on an empty stomach. But if you're finding that even with the hack of eating fruit as a dessert, like I've mentioned, and your A1C is a 5.8, I wouldn't do that either. I would avoid the fruit. The only fruit you should be having right now are avocados. If you enjoy them, they're nice and fatty. And if you're having any guacamole, you're not going to have them with corn chips. You're going to have them with some crudité, some nice chopped up raw vegetables. That would be the way to eat your guacamole, or you could do like I do and just eat it with a spoon. Delicious. Or, sliced up underneath some smoked salmon or some previously cooked salmon that I've made the night before for dinner with maybe some arugula and some chopped onion, some lemon juice, yum, or lime juice in this case with the avocado, which is also very nice. So forget about the tricks, the hacks, the way to temper the absorption of carbs if your A1C is as high as you're saying it is at 5.8. You need to be extremely low carb. We're talking about under 25 grams of carbs a day because you need to get that A1C down. And optimally, you want your hemoglobin A1C to be closer to 5, not just 5.6. And you shouldn't have anything sweet. That includes sugar, that includes soft drinks, any sweetened beverages, any smoothies that taste sweet to you or have been sweetened. You should stay away from alternative sweeteners as well, not just the artificial ones that do their own damage and raise blood sugar and insulin, but even things like monk fruit. I understand monk fruit is said to be low glycemic, but people still have surges in their blood sugar and subsequently their insulin responses when they consume even the low glycemic sweeteners like agave. No, forget it. Just stay away altogether. Just stay away from all of that. So forget about cheating at all, Rita. You can't afford to cheat with a hemoglobin A1C of 5.8. You need to be low carb. You need to be on an Atkins-style diet, a ketogenic diet. Your body would benefit from being in ketosis just like the rest of humanity. Fat, after all, is our primary fuel. We're all meant to be in ketosis, I would say at least most of the time. Maybe in and out a little bit in summer when fruit is available. But with an A1C of a 5.8, you would absolutely benefit from being in ketosis. Lipolysis ketosis, which is our primary fat-burning metabolism. It's good for everything. It's good for lowering the A1C. It's good for reducing inflammation. It's good for protecting your brain health if you're concerned about dementia, if you're concerned about anything like that. So remember, with an A1C of 5.8, you're clearly in the prediabetes zone. You need to lower your carbs. Absolutely, you need to lower your carbs to bring that back down. I've got another question here from Joy. Joy says, I read your article on risk factors for fragility fractures. Very interesting. Makes me wonder what other advantages there are for keeping insulin use low. I know there are good reasons to keep blood sugar low, but I'm wondering about insulin. I'm a type 1 diabetic on insulin, and I eat low carb to keep my use of insulin low. Joy, that is absolutely correct. I have type 1 diabetic clients on insulin who would come in complaining of weight gain, overweight, all of that. We put them on a lower carb diet so that they are able to administer less insulin to themselves, thereby reducing that fat storage hormone, insulin. And they drop the weight and everything is better. And they have even tighter control of their blood sugar because you need to be very low in carbohydrate. You need to be ketogenic so that you administer the lowest amount of insulin possible. Now, Joy goes on to say, also here is an interesting situation with the low costs of insulin, which has been touted as a benefit, but actually encourages a person to use more. It has to do with the pricing structure. If I were to use one box of 5 insulin pens in 1 month through the Kaiser plan, which uses Optum RX, I am charged $100. And because I use that same box of 5 pens in 3 to 4 months, I am charged $300 when I purchase a new box. I work hard on keeping my use of insulin low. Yet, for all my good efforts, the price of insulin is more expensive because I use less. I am penalized by Optum RX because they charge more to use less insulin. Amazing. The pricing structure is backward and sending the wrong message. I wholeheartedly agree with you, Joy. Isn't Kaiser and all health plans in the business and mission to promote healthy habits and therefore encourage the need for less medicine? And should the pricing structure reflect these values? And for those people that do so, be encouraged, not discouraged. Do you have any thoughts about this? I send letters to Kaiser's board and to GoodRx with no reply. I guess they want all the money they can get. Yeah, you know what, Joy? If I was a conspirator, I would guess the same. I'm with you on that. You're being penalized for using less medicine. That is so inside out and backwards, or bass-ackwards, right? I'm trying to keep the language clean here. It is a family podcast. So, Joy, yeah, and kudos to you for being able to use less insulin, being on a lower carb ketogenic diet. That's the best way to have tight control of your blood sugar and administer to yourself as little insulin as is required. That is great. That is absolutely wonderful. That's the thing to do. Type 1 diabetes is different than type 2 diabetes. Type 1 diabetes tends to be autoimmune in nature. Type 1 diabetics, their pancreases don't make any insulin at all. And listen, we would die without any insulin at all, so they are required to self-administer insulin, whether via injection. Some people have an insulin pump. There's all kinds of modalities now, but the injection is still very, very popular. Type 2 diabetes is a condition of carbohydrate intolerance. However, late-stage diabetes, where their pancreases are so completely worn out, they're not making any more insulin, they turn into type 1 diabetics in this context, right? And they then need to administer insulin. Another thing I find disturbing is that many young doctors, many you medical school graduates, I've noticed this over the past, I'd say decade or so, they are more fond of prescribing insulin straight away. If you've got a little bit of an blood sugar abnormality, if you're in the diabetes range. And that worries me because their pancreases still secrete insulin, and that's what they're not testing for. And by prescribing insulin to bring their blood sugar down, they're also prescribing more fat storage hormone, which then is more inflammation, right, in the body and all of that. You don't want that. That is the opposite of what you want. So I wish doctors would not be so quick to prescribe insulin first for the type 2 diabetic, but do other things like send them to a qualified nutritionist to make the proper changes in diet to deal with their carbohydrate toxicity, which is the definition of type 2 diabetes, right? And maybe take more natural measures before prescribing even to something like metformin, right? Metformin is helpful. We don't want you on it forever. We got to be careful of your B12 status and maybe kidney function and things like that when you're using metformin. With any prescription medication, there are always side effects that we need to be aware of and manage, at least for the time that you're on medication. So this is important. And I am very disturbed and concerned by the many, many doctors as the first line of treating high blood sugar without any further investigation as to whether the pancreas of their patient is still secreting insulin, and oftentimes they are. But they now have insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes and that entire metabolic abnormality, carbohydrate toxicity that it is, and they're prescribing yet more insulin. It's the wrong way to go. The patient is getting sicker. It's not the right way to go. So this is very, very important. And other things, you don't want to prescribe other drugs, sulfonylureas, for example, that cause the pancreas to secrete more insulin. You don't want that. You want something like glucophage, which is metformin, which the mechanism of action is different. It doesn't cause the pancreas to secrete more insulin. It helps your cells be more sensitive to the insulin that's already there, right? Which is how it works. And that's the way it kind of should be. And again, we don't want you on metformin forever. And I'm really surprised that, insurance groups and prescription agencies who manage all of this and, the price of drugs and the copays and all of that, and how people are incentivized to use more medicine. It's a terrible thing. Well, we all know Big Pharma, that's how they stay in business, and that's the business model. The same goes for a lot of medicine. You want to be careful how you consume your health care. And I'm talking about visits to the doctor. Are so many screening procedures? How important are they? How appropriate are they? Is there any danger of overtreatment? Often overtreatment causes all kinds of dangerous effects, right? These are things you want to have a very frank discussion with your doctor about. So it's very, very important. Joy, kudos to you for keeping your blood sugar and your use of insulin prudent. That is so, so very good. And Rita, if your insulin went from a 5.6 to a 5.8, trying to do glucose hacks and temper the absorption of the carbohydrates in the cheats, clearly it is not working for you. Therefore, you absolutely need to be on a low-carb diet. You need to bring your total carbohydrates down to 25 grams or even 20 grams and below. You don't need to get a ketosis monitor. You don't need to do the urine strips. You don't need to do any of these things. Just simply keep it there. And that also means when I see your total carbs, I don't mean your net carbs. I mean your total carbohydrate intake to less than 25 grams a day. Net carbs are the total carbs minus fiber. For example, if something you're eating has a total carbohydrate of 10 on the nutrition facts label and a fiber content of 2, 10 minus 2 is your net carbs. Your net carbs are 8. I don't mean your net carbs equaling 25 grams of carbs or less per day. I mean your total carbs. I don't even want you to regard the fiber, right, as blunting anything. And so many low-carb products, which are sweetened with other things, even the sugar alcohols, they can still have adverse impacts on your blood sugar and insulin. I would avoid them. Eat natural food the way it's found in nature, not low-carb products, not a low-carb bar or shake, which will be sweetened with something. You don't want that. That's exactly what you don't want. So in the beginning stages, when you're trying to lower your A1C and all of that, you should avoid all of these products. I would have you avoid fruit. Again, the only fruit you should eat is avocado during this time, not any other fruit. And, be wary of that. See if you can check your your A1C again after doing the diet strictly for 3 months, where that brings you. And again, optimal A1C for most people is a 5.0. Now, blood sugar can naturally rise as we get older, but that doesn't mean it's going to sit at a 5.8. Another thing to note when you're getting your A1C checked, make sure you're not getting this blood draw while you're ill, you have the sniffles, you just got over a cold, the cold was even 2 weeks ago. Don't check your A1C then, because these things like an infection, a cold, a fever, inflammation, that all naturally raises blood sugar. So you're not really getting a correct reading. What you're getting is a reading of your body's response to the cold, the flu, the infection. Wait until you are well, completely well, no cold, no sniffles, you don't feel under the weather, you're not getting over an infection, there's no source of inflammation that you know of in your body, like your ankle isn't swollen because you twisted it. All of that is inflammation where your body may respond with a higher blood glucose. Wait until the situation has cleared, has resolved, and then you get your A1C test. And that should tell you everything. I want to thank you for joining me on another edition of Layla Weighs In. This is Intelligent Medicine.
I want to thank you for listening to the Intelligent Medicine Podcast. Follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, or your favorite podcast app, and get new episodes automatically downloaded every weekday. And please give us a rating and review. It truly helps new people discover intelligent medicine. The Intelligent Medicine Podcast is for general informational purposes only and does not constitute the practice of medicine, nursing, or other professional healthcare services, including the giving of medical advice, and no doctor-patient relationship is formed. The use of information on this podcast or materials linked from this podcast is at the user's own risk. The content of this podcast is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Users should not disregard or delay in obtaining medical advice for any medical condition they may have and should seek the assistance of their healthcare professionals for any such conditions. Finally, please visit drhoffman.com and discover everything Intelligent Medicine has to offer, including frequently updated, unbiased health news and fully vetted product and supplement recommendations.
This is Leyla Muedin, registered dietitian nutritionist. I maintain a private practice and see patients regularly. If you require a nutrition consult with me but live out of town, there's no need to travel to New York City. I have telephone and telehealth consultations with clients from all over the country. Please visit drhoffman.com for more information. And to set up an appointment, call 212-779-1744. That's 212-779-1744. I look forward to being a collaborator in your healthcare.